Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Today we saw the Bucks take a 122-108 victory over the Miami Heat, which won the season series against Miami for the Bucks, 2-1. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is a terrific omen for a potential playoff series against the Heat because Jimmy Butler missed all 3 of those games for Miami, but there certainly are some things that can be taken away from this game when we consider what a potential playoff matchup could look like. First, let's talk about the impact of Bam Adebayo. Today we saw Giannis limited to just 15 points and 9 rebounds on 6 for 12 shooting. And while that is not a bad night whatsoever, it was noticeable that the defense of Bam Adebayo played a significant part in what was a limited performance from Giannis. Fortunately, Brook Lopez was able to step up his play on the offensive end as he had a mismatch for much of this game where Nemanja Bjelica, a much smaller and less physical player than Adebayo, was guarding Brook. And Lopez exploited that matchup to the tune of 18 points on a remarkably efficient 9 for 10 shooting from the field. Brook was able to use his size to catch some passes right near the basket where he rose up and finished for some pretty big dunks, including the one that I used for the thumbnail in this video. Lopez also was able to use his high release point to take advantage of the shorter Bjelica, and he shot over him a few times where he used the Dirk fadeaway that we've seen him use a bit more this season than we have over the past 2 years. So this was a nice game from Brook, and he also won the battle of the centers on the defensive end of the court, where he held Bam Adebayo to just 5 points on 2 for 9 shooting. Adebayo was still able to impact the game positively for the Heat on the offensive end of the court because he did a nice job of passing from the big man spot as he dished out 8 assists. But for Brook to limit what Bam can do as a scorer is very important as well. You've got to make him beat you in one way, and today that way was as a passer instead of as a scorer, and it worked out in the Bucks' favor as they held Miami to just 108 points. In addition to there being a pretty significant battle of the bigs tonight, there was also a show put on by each of the 2 point guards, and surprisingly, Kendrick Nunn got the better of Jrue Holiday. Holiday still had a really nice night for Milwaukee as he put up a double-double with 20 points and 10 assists, but he didn't have the same impact on the defensive end that he usually does, and Nunn was able to take advantage of that as he piled on 31 points on 13 for 18 shooting and made 4 of his 5 3-pointers. I don't think that we can criticize Jrue too much for this one because for the most part, Nunn was just on fire. He was able to get to the basket quite frequently in this game. He got to the foul line a few times. He threw down a big dunk in the restricted area, and he also had it going from the 3-point line as evidenced by that 80% 3-point mark. Jrue couldn't do too much to slow down Nunn in this game, and he did a really nice job of defending Goran Dragic inside the arc, as Goran went just 1 for 7 on 2s. Unfortunately for the Bucks, Dragic was a bit more successful from beyond the 3-point line, and that was true for the Heat as a whole. On 2-pointers in this game, Miami shot just 38.3%, which bodes very well for the Bucks as they continue to play strong interior defense and limit what their opponents are able to do inside scoring the basketball. Unfortunately, on the other hand, the Bucks allowed Miami to shoot 44.9% on their 3-pointers, and that led to the Heat pouring in 22 made 3-pointers in this game for well over half of their points. Nunn had 4, and in addition to that, Goran Dragic and Duncan Robinson had 5 apiece, and some new faces in Miami, unlike the 3 guys I just talked about who had been on the Heat for their 5-game series win over the Bucks last season. Trevor Ariza and Nemanja Bjelica each added 3-pointers as well. So the Bucks, for as well as they defended inside the arc, do need to do a much better job of protecting the 3-point line and not allowing Miami to knock down threes if they expect to easily win a series against this feisty Miami squad. However, while the Heat were very successful shooting, the Bucks actually shot the ball quite well in addition to that. And we saw 2 of the Bucks shooters, and probably their 2 best shooters, really knocked down a lot of shots in this game, as Chris Middleton and Bryn Forbes led the Bucks with 21 points apiece. Chris Middleton had about the most Chris Middleton-esque game that you could expect him to have, which makes sense. After all, he is Chris Middleton. He had 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists on a really efficient 8 for 12 shooting tonight. It felt like whenever the Bucks needed a basket, Chris was able to make a timely bucket, and that allowed him to pile up a really nice and efficient stat line tonight. He made a few really tough shots in the mid-range over the positive defense of Andre Iguodala and Trevor Ariza, and for Chris to continue to shoot the ball well as we head into the playoffs bodes quite well for the Bucks' chances at winning the Eastern Conference this season. Bryn Forbes has been equally hot to Middleton, and you could argue he's been even hotter, and that continued in today's game, as Forbes had 21 points on 7 for 9 shooting. It appeared that Coach Mike Budenholzer actually took a page out of his opponent's playbook, as there were a few plays in this game that were run for Forbes that looked quite similar to some of the actions that the Miami Heat run for Duncan Robinson, where Bryn was running around screens and getting some wide open looks off of movement for some three-point shots. Bryn made 5 of his 6 three-pointers in this game, and that allowed him to pile up such an efficient scoring night from the field. Overall, in this game for the Bucks, there were some negatives. They did allow the Heat to make more three-pointers than they probably wanted to, and they struggled to get baskets at some points during the second half. However, there were also a lot of positives, as we saw Brook Lopez have a nice night, Drew Holiday have a nice scoring night, although his defense could have been better, and Chris Middleton and Bryn Forbes both hit quite a few shots. I also think that we could see Giannis play a bit better come playoff time, as there wasn't so much pressure on him to score the ball as there usually would be in a playoff situation. The Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler, but I still think that you can take away a lot of positives from this game if you are a Bucks fan, and as it grows increasingly apparent that Milwaukee will be playing Miami in the first round of this year's playoffs, I think that as Bucks fans we can feel pretty confident that we will see a different result than what we saw last season. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.